Hello everyone, it's McCready Musings here. Now, let's talk about treasure tokens. There's been a bit of a gold rush at the minute with lots and lots of Magic content creators all making videos on treasure, so I felt I should weigh in and throw some graphs around. As I'm sure you're aware, treasures are little artifact tokens that can be sacrificed to generate mana of any colour. As of the upload date of this video, there are 169 cards that either generate treasure or are treasures themselves, like Goldhound for example. At the time of this video's release, Battle for Baldur's Gate and the associated commander decks have just come out, in case you're watching this in the future and want to sort of pinpoint where we are in time. Treasures have been stirring up a bit of controversy recently, and people have been asking three primary questions. Number 1, are they being printed too frequently? Number 2, which colours should get access to them? And number 3, are they too powerful? Now, I'm not in a position to definitively answer any of these questions, but I thought I'd lay out the arguments people have been making and use some data to investigate these claims. Few quick methodological points though before we begin. I'll be counting cards as treasures if they either A, generate treasure tokens, or B, have the treasure subtype. I'll also only be counting the first printing of a card. So for example, Shiny Impetus has been printed in 3 different sets of commander decks, but it's just one unique card. So it only counts once towards the total. I also won't be counting any dungeons, because 3 out of the 4 of them give you treasures, but they're not really sort of cards in a way. Like, you don't sort of shuffle them into your deck or anything. They're sort of like a little extra feature which you can make use of if you want to. I also won't be counting anything that's digital only, so no alchemy cards. And finally, I won't include anything which is currently exclusively appeared in a secret lair drop. This excludes exactly 1 card, but I felt I should let you know, just to be on the safe side. With that out of the way, let's get going. So, are they being printed too frequently? Treasures debuted in Ixalan in September of 2017. Ixalan had a sort of swashbuckling pirate theme, so treasure tokens were a natural fit. After that, they appeared again pretty sparingly over the next few years, before 2021 when they came back with a vengeance. 58 treasure cards were printed in 2021. Considering that only 35 were printed from 2017 to 2020, that means more treasure cards were printed in 2021 than in the entire history of the game prior to that point. So far, in 2022, we've had 76 treasure cards. This makes it the year where the most treasure cards have ever appeared, and it's still only June. This gives us a grand total of 169 treasure cards. To put that in perspective, Clue tokens debuted a year earlier than Treasure, in April of 2016, but only 53 cards which are clues or generate them have been printed in that time, less than a third of the number of treasure cards we have. So there are definitely quite a lot of treasure cards around, and they have been coming out with increasing frequency since last year, though your mileage may vary of course as to whether there are too many. I've put up a poll alongside this video, so let me know whether you think they're coming out too frequently, at just the right rate, or not frequently enough, I guess. With that said, let's move on to our next point. Which colours should have access to treasure? Another controversy surrounding treasure tokens is the colours in which they appear. In Ixalan, red, blue and black all had treasure tokens, as those were the 3 piratey colours. Red still has access to them, and is the primary colour which produces them, having by far the most treasure producers at 59, versus black, which is the next highest, that has 27. Red having access to treasures isn't really controversial. I mean, I've never heard anybody arguing that red shouldn't be able to make treasure tokens. If that is your view though, let me know in the comments, I'll be interested to hear from you. Every few years, game designer Mark Rosewater puts out an article entitled Mechanical Colour Pie, in which he outlines what every colour in the game should and should not be able to do. The most recent iteration of this article was published in 2021, and shows that red is a colour which cares about sacrificing. It's the primary colour for producing temporary mana, which treasure sort of is. I mean, the mana can be banked between turns, but you can only use it once and then it's gone. And red is also behind blue, in that it's the colour that cares the second most about artifacts. Treasure tokens thus mechanically fit like a hand in glove for red, but what should be the colour that cares the second most about treasure? Well, currently, that colour is green. It hasn't always been this way, but according to a statement on Mark Rosewater's blog, that's the situation as it currently stands, or as it stood on the 22nd of April when he made this post. Notably, green didn't always have the ability to produce treasure. Vraska Relic Seeker, a Golgari card which makes treasure, did appear way back in Ixalan, but we didn't get any mono-green treasure producers until 4 years later, in Modern Horizons 2, with cards like Tireless Provisioner, followed up by a large number of mono-green treasure cards in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, like Old Gnawbones and Prosperous Innkeeper. Now, Green is currently sitting in 3rd place on the treasure production leaderboards, behind only red and black. I mean, I guess technically it's 4th place behind colourless, but green is the 3rd place of the 5 colours of magic. Now, green is the colour which is best at ramping and at generating mana, so on that level it makes sense it would have access to treasure. But green is also supposed to be the colour that hates artifacts and artifice. This leads to some questions on the choice. Most notably, Joey Schultz, the host of EDHRECast, said in a video he made on the subject,
Like when Old Gnawbone happened, Old Gnawbone, of course, being the dragon that creates treasures when you deal damage to your opponents. And I know that it's apparently a very flavorful thing, but flavorfully, you can justify anything in a color, but that doesn't make it right for the game. And I learned that by listening to Magic designers when they talked about Hornet Queen and Beast Within, which are color pie breaks, or Harmonize, which is color pie break.
All green cards, Joey. Those are all green cards you just mentioned.
Yes, and a lot...
Flavored justification for really strong cards tends to be a green thing.
Yeah, the color of nature feels like the exact wrong color to me to be making a lot of artifact tokens, specifically to create artificial mana. Something about that feels completely wrong in it.
Blue, meanwhile, has gradually been losing access to treasure production. It was one of the 3 colours that initially got treasure, but according to Mark Rosewater's blog, this is a decision that the game's designers regret. Quote, "Neither blue nor white are supposed to be good at making other colours of mana. We did let blue make treasure as part of the pirate flavour, but consider that a mistake." Blue's situation is sort of the equal and opposite of green's, I suppose. Whilst green is the best colour at generating mana, but it's supposed to hate artifacts, blue is the primary colour that cares about artifacts, but it shouldn't be able to generate mana of any colour. Notably, we've gotten 2 mono blue treasure producing cards recently. An Offer You Can't Refuse from Streets of New Capenna, although that does give the treasures generated to your opponent, and Prosperous Thief from Neon Dynasty. As Magic's designers work a fair ways ahead of what's publicly released, however, Mark Rosewater's statement could indicate that we won't be seeing any more mono blue treasure makers in future. So I guess that's so long, Sailor of Means. To wrap this section up then, red was always and remains the primary colour for producing treasure. Green initially wasn't considered a treasure-making colour, but has since received significant support, and, if Rosewater's statements on his blog are any indication, will continue to do so in future. Black has always consistently made treasure in a sort of tertiary capacity, and it's going to keep trundling along. Blue was initially a treasure-making colour, but this is no longer going to be the case, and white's intended to get a little bit of treasure for the purpose of taxing effects like Smothering Tithe and Monologue Tax. This is the situation as it currently stands. The final talking point about treasure is their power. Now, power is sort of an amorphous and difficult concept to measure. How powerful is, say, Swords to Plowshares when compared to Oko Thief of Crowns? It's all very dependent on context, and it's highly subjective. It's not really possible for me to quantifiably measure just how powerful treasure cards are versus non-treasure cards. But there are some notable treasure cards which have had a pretty large impact on several of the game's formats. Ragavan Nimble Pilferer was banned in Legacy in January 2022, and it still has an incredibly active presence in many other formats where it's legal, with pro player Gabriel Nassif saying the card is reinventing tempo in Modern in a video for Channel Fireball. Ragavan currently commands an approximately $72 price tag, so if you want to grab a playset, you may need to get your hands on some real-life treasure. Hole Breacher is another banned treasure card. It was banned in Commander in July of 2021, as, quote, its ostensible defensive use against extra card draw has been dwarfed by offensively combining it with mass card draw effects to easily strip players' hands whilst accelerating the controller, with the treasure tokens it generates playing a part in this acceleration. Dockside Extortionist and Smothering Tithe are also notable treasure generating cards, with Dockside currently being the 3rd most popular red card in Commander according to EDHREC data, while Smothering Tithe is currently the 3rd most popular white card. Dockside Extortionist, at time of recording, appears in 116,775 decks, 20% of the red decks locked on the site, all of this despite the card's roughly $70 price tag, whilst the $30 to $40 Smothering Tithe appears in 29% of all white decks. So, there are certainly some powerful treasure producing cards out there. So, there you have it. I've outlined some of the major talking points about treasure tokens today, but what are your views? Like I said earlier, I'll be putting up a poll to accompany this video, so you can let me know. Do you think treasure cards are printed too often, or do you think this is all a bit of a Captain Lannery storm in a teacup? Let me know. You can also find all of the graphs and data which I've used in this video linked down in the description, as well as a more thorough analysis in an article I've written. Also, I'll be keen to know what you think of this new style. Do you like me popping up to talk to you in person like this, or do you prefer it when I'm a disembodied British voice? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks very much.